That sounds good. And also just a couple of other things as we go along. If you've got any questions along the way, just as you think of them, feel free to type them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. There should be a thing that sort of looks like a speech bubble. So just feel free to throw any questions in there as you go along. And at the end of the presentation, I'll address those questions. So I really welcome any questions or any feedback as we kind of go. So just chuck them in down there and I'll answer those a bit later on. So, right, let me find the thing here at the bottom to share my screen. So hopefully you can all see that. Can you see that, Tim? Yep, cool. That's excellent. Cool. Hopefully everyone else that can. You can see that, Christine? Excellent. Thumbs up. Wonderful. Great. So this mighty South Island rally. So this is what we're all here to talk about this evening. Hopefully you're in the right area and you're interested in sailing to the South Island this summer. This will be the 4th South Island rally that we have run. I bought Island Cruising back in 2021, right in the middle of COVID, which at the time Island Cruising was obviously running yacht rallies up into the Pacific, and I somehow had my rubber arm twisted to buy the business mid-COVID when you couldn't travel anywhere else. And so I thought, right, I'm going to run a South Island rally and train myself how to actually run a yacht rally. And I think that year we had 35 entries. Of course, you couldn't go anywhere else, so it was a great excuse to go and explore our own wonderful backyard. And since then we've had 2 more after the first one, 2 more really successful rallies, and then this will be our 4th version of it. So along the way, we've learnt lots of incredible things, and I've also been able to add all of those learnings into our rally content along the way. So we've got a really comprehensive program that we're able to offer out to you guys now, and that's thanks also to the people that have contributed to it along the way. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Vicky Moore. I'm a lifelong sailor, been sailing since I was about 8 years old here in Lyttelton Harbour. So the South Island is my home. I've done lots of cruising around here, but I haven't done the whole South Island rally like many of our rally participants have. I've done bits and pieces here and there all over the place, but not the whole thing in one go. So I've learned a lot from, as I say, the people that have been all the way around. And we obviously run yacht rallies up in the Pacific as well. And some of the stuff that we put together for the South Island rally is these really comprehensive resources, including a rally guidebook, which has been developed and improved as we go along. And we also let you know what other wonderful resources there are out there as well that you can tap into along the way. So what is a yacht rally? And I guess our rallies sort of are a rally in the loosest sense of the word. It's really a group of people that are heading in the same general direction at the same general time. So we do our best to kind of connect you with the other people that are heading to the South Island this summer, but there is no real set itinerary and no real set dates. So you're able to sort of pick and choose when you'd like to travel and where exactly you'd like to go, and also which direction you'd like to travel in. And we'll aim to connect you up with the others that are heading in the same direction. And hopefully you'll be able to kind of buddy up and travel with those people at the same time, but you're also not restricted to a set date and place that you have to go that could restrict your ability to kind of get there. Some people decide that they want to go for just a short period of time, just to a part of the South Island, whereas other people have kind of got 6 months to spare. So we didn't really want to kind of restrict it to a certain kind of, set itinerary. It's all about you and what you want to do on your adventure in the South Island. As I mentioned before, we've had some really fantastic people on our rallies. This was Jo, who had me aboard her boat last year for a few days, and she's a great sailor. She's hopefully joining us on the Pacific next year. And you probably also, hopefully have seen some of the Parlay Revival videos about their experience on the South Island Rally last summer as well. So they had a wonderful time. In fact, they managed to do the whole South Island Rally in about 6 weeks, which is a pretty quick trip. We usually recommend people try to allocate at least 3 months to do their trip, but they were able to kind of scoot around relatively quickly, and they did some fantastic coverage for us in the process of their voyage. So if you haven't watched the Parlay Revival South Island Rally videos, then you can get a bit of a feel for what you're going to experience if you want to watch those. So the South Island is about 450 nautical miles long. I recommend that you do allow as much time to get around it as you possibly can. The dates are flexible, as I mentioned, but I recommend that you start around the end of December and finish around the end of March. And that just means you get that more settled period in our weather systems. Sort of November, December can still be a little bit unsettled, a little bit windy with those nor'westers kind of coming through. But end of December, around to the end of March, the summer season, it's normally a little bit more settled this further south. So you've got the choice of Abel Tasman and Marlborough at the very top, and you could literally spend an entire season there and not actually cover the whole thing. Or if you're a bit more adventurous, you can carry on down to Fiordland and Stewart Island at the bottom, and obviously Otago and Banks Peninsula on the east coast. Those are our main cruising destinations in the South Island. So what's included when you sign up for the rally? So once you register for the rally, you get our vessel manual, and this is basically designed to help you tick off all the safety requirements that you need to make your trip safe and enjoyable. So it's based on the Yachting New Zealand Cat 1 regulations. So you don't necessarily need to get your vessel to this level. You can choose to do whatever you like, and in fact, in terms of your own safety equipment and the way you set up your boat. So there's no actual inspection for safety equipment on board, but we just highly recommend that you aim to get your boat to at least a Cat 2 level, especially if you're heading down to Fiordland and sailing down the west coast of the North Island. You're in quite some remote territory, you're a long way offshore at times. So being prepared for some quite challenging weather conditions and also some quite a long way offshore sort of situations on your boat, you'll want to have sort of certain safety equipment on board. So that's what the vessel manual is all about. And basically the manual is a list of all of the requirements of Cat 1 that you can detail and record everything that your vessel has got on board. And then any gaps in that in the manual, once you've filled it out, will be the areas that you can focus your attention on when it comes to getting your boat prepared to head down south. So the manual is designed for the boats heading up to the Pacific, but it's also very useful for those of you who are heading down south. So many of you might be members of Island Cruising already, so you might already be accessing some of our learning content online. But once you sign up for the rally, that really ramps up, and we give you a lot more sort of detailed direction on where to go to make sure that your boat is prepared for the adventures ahead. So our cruising preparation workshops, as I mentioned, you might have already accessed some of those if you're already a member, but you get a weekly, for those of you who aren't, you get a weekly newsletter, which gives you some tips and tricks on how to kind of attack your vessel preparation in nice, easy, bite-sized pieces, a lot of which you can also do from the comfort of your own office without actually having to be on the boat, whether it's sort of documentation, safety procedures, and those sorts of things. The cost to join just the cruising preparation workshops is just $129 per person, and we recommend that you get your crew members to join up to this as well, and then they're able to access some of the content that we're sending through to you as well. So we also get some great discounts from our partner suppliers, and they're able to help kit you out with various equipment and safety gear for the adventures ahead. Our rally guidebook is constantly being updated, and whenever you go on the trip, if anyone asks me a question that's not currently in the guidebook, I find out the answer and I add it in for next year. So it's developed into a really useful resource that people can use to just basically make their cruising adventures around the South Island more enjoyable. It's designed to kind of complement rather than replace the existing cruising guides that are out there for the South Island. So we have a lot of more current up-to-date information in there, where some of the other guides that have potentially been published for, say, 10, 15, 20 years, sort of, information has kind of changed, but we don't go into try and duplicate all of the information that are in those guides. So this kind of gives you up-to-date information on how to get groceries delivered in tricky places, or where you can access fuel, and who all the local contacts are. Our favorite kind of places of anchorages that the rally boats have enjoyed along the way, where you can pick up moorings in Fiordland and Stewart Island and Marlborough. Also up-to-date information about communications around the coast, and of course tips on the weather for when you're navigating your way around. You also get a rally pack, which are these boxes in the back of my car here, and in there is all sorts of other useful information that you're going to find handy for your trip around the coastline, including all the latest sort of information on radio channels, safety, fishing regulations, and all sorts of other goodies that we collect along the way. In the rally pack, you get a paper chart of the South Island. We also do quite a detailed webinar. This will be sort of a general overview, but we'll do a detailed webinar of all the places that you're heading to, including sort of a passage planning workshop, where you'll learn about planning your trip around the South Island and other things and hazards that you need to look out for. We do have the the radio handbook from Maritime New Zealand. We talk to you about getting your clean vessel pass or heading down to Fiordland. And we can also connect you up to our suppliers, Trans-Pacific Marine, to get discounts on the other cruising guides, which are useful to have along the way. So the South Island chart is one of those charts that's included in your rally pack, and you're able to use this to kind of plot your course and your passage around the island. And we also have a printed passage plan booklet that comes out in your rally pack, and we go through this in a greater level of detail once you've got your entire rally pack, and do a proper passage planning session for cruising around the coastline. If you're heading down to Fiordland, Lower Stewart Island, but also as you come down the west coast of the North Island, you're going to be out of normal cell phone coverage. So we talk a bit more about satellite communications and different options available to you. Of course, Starlink has been one of the sort of real game changers in this space in the last 18 months. In fact, this time last year, the boats up in the Pacific were really only kind of working out that we could use it up in the island. So it's still relatively new and quite changing technology, but we talk about the pros and cons of Starlink and other backup options that you're able to use for your emergency and satellite comms whilst you're heading further down south. And we also go into great detail about the weather, which is obviously one of the main deciding factors as to how much fun you have on the South Island Rally. Is very much determined on how much of an adventure versus that type 2 fun that you can get if the weather's not so great. So we talk to you about the weather systems, make sure that you're all up to speed with downloading various weather forecasts from your PredictWind software, and we also have a weather router that you can tap into if you've got any questions along the way. So PredictWind is a great supporter of us, and they also offer the rally participants a 20% discount on their weather forecasting subscription service, which is really useful. And we also have a training session, a training webinar with them usually each year as well, just to make sure that everyone's completely up to speed with how to use their weather routing and forecasting tools. They also do our tracker for us. So this is a really useful bit of kit so that we can keep track of all the boats and where they are at any one time, and also useful for people being able to connect up with other boats along the way. So at any glance, you can see where you are and where you are in relation to everyone else on the rally. So it's not a requirement to have a PredictWind tracker, but it's a very good idea to have one. And if you're having an issue we're able to quickly look on the tracker and see who's nearby and hopefully request some assistance for them to come in and help you out. It's also handy to share this website link with your friends and family so that they can see where you are at any one time as well, and are useful for weather forecasting, or if there's any other dramas going on, we can see where all our boats are at pretty quick, short notice. One of our great supporters along the way is Peter Mott. He runs an organisation called Passage Guardian, and he helps keep track of all the rally boats as they're cruising around the South Island, and he does like a radio sked as well. If you've got HF radio on board, you're able to tune into Peter each night. He'll give you a weather forecast and do your trip reports with him, and he'll just kind of keep an eye on where you are and where you're heading and whether there's any dramas along the way. He's just a great support person for me to keep track of where everyone's at any one time. And we can also help you out with crew members as well. So if you want to have some extra hands on board as you're cruising around the South Island, we've got lots of people that on our cruise seeker list that would just love to come aboard and get some extra experience sailing coastally with you. So, so if you do need any extra hands on board, we've got those people ready to sort of jump and be there. But I recommend you don't take my crew, or they'll probably drink all your champagne that you've got on the boat. But one of the great things about the rally is obviously the great friends that you meet along the way. And I think there's something to be said about that shared experience that you have with people that are going on a challenging experience with you. And you'll make some lifelong friends and people that you will connect up with time and time again into your future, and be able to relive the amazing adventures that you've had over the season. We also have a WhatsApp group chat for the people on the rally, and this comes in really, really handy just to be able to kind of connect you with others who have registered pre-departure, so that you can kind of work out where everyone's based and try to kind of connect up and figure out, I guess, when everyone's planning on heading off and where they're going to. And this is wonderful also along the way around. People can kind of share ideas or share their knowledge, or ask questions of others who are sort of ahead or behind of them, to help out or to answer questions. And it's a great community that we create with the South Island Rally, just to kind of knit everyone together that's on the rally. So even if you aren't based in the same area, you are still connected to everyone who's heading in the same direction via our WhatsApp group. We provide support if things go wrong, and occasionally things do. So we can provide support with the repairs and parts. So if you're in Fiordland and you lose your boat hook, or you've got some other kind of dramas going on, we can get crew, get crew to come down. We can send parts down to you. We can help with all those sort of logistics and things where it gets a bit too hard. You've always got someone that you can pick up the phone to me and sort of say, hey, we've got a problem. What do you think we can do in this area? Are you able to help? And we'll be able to come up with some constructive solutions for you to be able to help solve those problems. And whether it's first aid or repairs or weather support or any of those sorts of things, you've always got somebody at the other end of the line who's got your best interests at heart that will be able to kind of help out. We have had a couple of dramas. In our first South Island rally, we had two people helicoptered out, actually. This particular person here had broken her ankle up in the Abel Tasman, up at the Cleopatra's pool. She'd slipped on a rock, and she got airlifted out by the helicopter. And we also had a heart attack in Fiordland, and the person on that boat was also helicoptered out to Dunedin Hospital and taken care of. And we were able to kind of help pick up the pieces, take care of the boats, and make sure that all the people left behind on the boats are also all organised, as well as those who'd been taken away for medical attention. So, as I say, stuff kind of happens, and if it's going to happen, it might happen out there. So it's nice to have some backup support from us and the other rally participants if you are in a remote spot and in a tricky situation. As I mentioned before, you've got heaps of flexibility with the rally, and we'll try to buddy you up as best as we can with people going the same way, but you're not going to be restricted to somebody else's agenda. So you can either cruise with the group or do your own thing, pick your own times. The choice is yours. So again, depart whenever you want. You can head, our main group, I guess, if you like, sort of departs usually at the end of December from Opua, and most of them head down the west coast into the Abel Tasman. That's usually the first leg, and I'll talk a bit more about that shortly. And then from there, you kind of catch your breath. People can either stay in the Marlborough Tasman kind of area, and a lot of people do just choose to do that. Otherwise, it's a matter of waiting around here for your weather window to head further south, and then you can basically day hop your way all the way down through Fiordland, wait for your weather window here to get across to Stewart Island, cruise around here, and then back up the east coast into Otago Harbour. You've got the choice of Oamaru, Timaru, Akaroa, Littleton, and also up the coast, Kaikoura, if it's a nice day, and back up to the Marlborough Sounds. Some people choose to do like a whole sort of figure eight. Some people go the opposite direction, and some people circumnavigate the whole of New Zealand in one big circle or oval loop. So again, the choice is completely yours. You can choose whichever way is going to suit you, and also tailor it as well to sort of suit what's happening with the weather, I guess. So from Opua to Abel Tasman, it's approximately a 500 nautical mile trip, which is about a 3 to 4 day passage for a boat traveling at an average of about six knots is sort of what we estimate people are going to average. Sometimes if you get up and around the top here and the weather window is good enough, you could head directly south to Milford Sound, which is about 650 nautical miles. So potentially you should be able to do that in about 5 days. But of course, here in New Zealand, we don't often get weather windows for a whole 5 days. You may just want to prefer to break your trip here in Abel Tasman, regroup, refuel, reprovision, and then head down to Milford Sound from there. So we work quite carefully with you to sort of work through these weather windows. As you can see here, some of these passages aren't quite as direct as some of the people might have liked them to be. So our aim is obviously to get you on one of more of these sort of direct lines, as opposed to having to do sort of any tacks heading back towards the Abel Tasman area. But we'll talk to you more about that in more detail as we go along. So it's a matter of kind of biding your time up in Northland, and I think this is in Whangaroa Harbour, and waiting for a weather window to get round the top. And of course, then getting around Cape Reinga has its challenges as well. There's a bit of a trick to getting the tides and things right, which we'll talk to you about going around there, and a couple of things to avoid around the tops there as well. And then it's the big trip down the west coast. And as you can see, if I jump back to this page, back over here, you're quite a long way offshore. Like these guys are a good couple of 100 miles off the west coast of the North Island. So it's making sure that your boat's well set up for that you're basically in the ocean. You're a long way out at sea. You haven't got VHF coverage out there. So making sure that you're well prepared if anything did happen to go wrong at that particular point, that you've got comms and all the safety equipment on board to be able to handle any situation that comes your way. So this is my friend Martin and his friend Dennis. So we're going down the west coast the first time, and they obviously caught a beautiful fish along the way. And Leslie Stone also on that particular passage, that she caught this magic photograph of her going down the west coast as well. So Port Taranaki in New Plymouth is one of the places that you are able to stop if you have to as you're going down there, and this would be if the weather conditions were pretty gnarly and Cook Strait and you didn't want to kind of continue on. This is an option of a place to stop over, and you can see over here we've got like a little mooring field. Port Taranaki does actually have a couple of visitors mooring, so we'll make sure that you're connected and have those details if you did need to make an emergency stop. It's not a great place to be in a northerly though, because this is quite an open entrance and it can produce quite a nasty sea in here. So it'd only be if in southerly conditions that you'd want to stop here. It's also difficult to get fuel here, so you want to make sure that you're carrying plenty of fuel to get all your way down the west coast of the North Island. From there down to Tarakoe, which is sort of at the northern end of the Abel Tasman. It's about 100 miles, so another sort of overnight passage to get from there down to Port Taranaki, about 20 hours or so, and into Tarakoe, which is a nice little marina up here in Golden Bay. And from there, you're able to get some fuel and some water. You can get groceries delivered to this little marina here as well. They do accept visitors' berths, but they're sort of full of all the tuna fishing fleets. So it's sort of a little bit dependent on whether those boats are in or out as to whether you can get a berth in here. But as you can see, there's also moorings and another anchorage, and also a lovely little yacht club over here that's very welcoming to the South Island Rally sailors if you'd like to go in and get a drink or a bite to eat when they're open for their sailing days. Golden Bay is gorgeous, and you can do tours around Golden Bay, go and experience some of the beautiful places that there are to go and visit there, including the incredible Pupu Springs, which you might have heard about. This water is some of the clearest water in the world, and absolutely stunning. So you can take like a tour from the marina and go and experience some of the beautiful things that are going on in Golden Bay. And it's a real nice sort of alternative lifestyle over a big hill to drive there. So it's sort of only the intrepid travelers that make their way that far north, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous spot. And from there, you can explore the Abel Tasman. So depending on whether you're going down to Fiordland, you may or may not sort of have time to kind of hang around here, or you might just be wanting to kind of wait for that weather window. But this is an incredibly beautiful part of New Zealand, the Abel Tasman. It's a stunning walking track that goes for about 4 or 5 days, depending on how quickly you walk. And there's an excellent water taxi service, so you can get crew delivered in and out of these stunning bays. There's lots of sea kayakers, and it's really busy over the Christmas and New Year holidays. So a really popular place for South Islanders to go for their summer holidays. The other challenging thing there is that it has an up to 4-meter tidal range in this part of the world. So you can see here, I went in here on a water taxi one day. So this is me on the water taxi going into this beautiful little bay. And basically about 6 hours later, the plug is pulled, and this is where we were. This is literally where she is sitting, is where I am on the boat. So the tidal range can cause a few dramas for yachties there, but it's pretty cool to see. So the people with trailer yachts can go and sail into these gorgeous little inlets, and this is photographed as inside that inlet, and they basically put fenders underneath their keel underneath here, and then sit on the sand whilst the tide goes out. And yeah, it's a pretty cool place to go and explore. So if you've got a catamaran, potentially you could do that, or a lifting keel or something. It might be a bit difficult if you've got a monohull. But as you can see, there's gorgeous golden sands, crystal clear waters, beautiful anchorages. And this is in a place called Awaroa, which is a resort that you can either only boat or walk into, or you can also fly in there. There's no roads or anything to get into this place. But again, the plug is pulled, and the trailer yachts kind of all sit themselves on the sand. So don't be tempted to sail into those areas. If you are in a monohull, just because you see some masts hanging out there, you may or may not be able to get out at low tide. So you can see a bit better in this picture, the picture where the yachts were before. They were all anchored out here, and the trailer yachts are all in along this particular area here. And the water taxi comes in, drops people off here, and you can kind of see the roof line here. That's the Awaroa Lodge, and there's like an airfield or an airstrip here where they can land sort of light aircraft and helicopters for the rich and famous that are flying in to visit that lodge. You can explore all of this area in your kayaks or dinghies and things. And there's one of the huts is here for the walking track, and they have to wait until the tide goes out, and then the hikers all hike across this estuary to get to the other side. So it's a spectacularly beautiful part of New Zealand, and I highly recommend you spend some time there. This is the pizza place that they've got at Awaroa. So I went up and met all the South Island Rally participants. This was the first year that we did it. And as you can see, beautiful places to kayak in amongst numerous estuaries in this area. But as you can see in here, it looks pretty nice. Out here, it's pretty windy and pretty wild. This is in Tasman Bay area. This is a place called the Anchorage, and I had New Year's Eve here on Julia, the rally boat that I posted to you before, and they have an incredible fireworks display here each year as well, which is just done on one of the rafts out here. So I think the Tully's family, one of those fishing company families, hosts the fireworks barge, and so you can sit out here on your yacht and at New Year's Eve watch this most incredible fireworks display. It's absolutely stunning. And the water taxis will come and go from here, so you can get crew or provisions brought in and bits and pieces like that, or you can also walk out from here back to Marahau, which is where the road is, and it'll take you sort of 4 or 5 hours to walk out from here. This is Kaiteriterri Beach, which again is another really, really popular place for Christchurch-based people to go up for their holidays. Gorgeous, beautiful sandy beach, and it gets pretty hectic here at New Year's and Christmas kind of time, and then quietens off again after that. So there's a nice camping ground here, and ice creams and cafes and a small dairy where you can buy various bits and pieces. And this is in Motueka, and they've got, again, you can see that a huge tidal range. So the tide goes out and the boats all sit on the mud below. And this is down in Nelson. So Nelson Marina is a large marina. They love to welcome the rally boats in there as well. They've also got excellent sort of boat repair facilities and things in this area. This is where I did my Yachtmaster qualification. Actually, it's a quite a challenging kind of entry through the cart and down through the narrow channel. And you come in here into the marina. They've got a visitor's berth, and this red roofed area here is the Tasman Bay Yacht Club, and they really like welcoming the rally participants as well. So Nelson's a lovely town to go and visit, and you can go and get lots of provisions there, as I say, get some repairs done if necessary, and just spend some time just kind of hanging out and absorbing the atmosphere. It's gorgeous. So from here, you've got the option. You can either stay and explore the Abel Tasman and Marlborough, or you can then hop off from here to head further south down the west coast to Fiordland. So if you did decide to stay north, D'Urville Island is a popular spot to go and visit. It's a very remote place. If you were driving, you'd drive up to French Pass and take a water taxi across. But there are a couple of farms, a big sort of couple of stations on here, but otherwise relatively kind of uninhabited in this particular area. Absolutely stunning. So Port Hardy's got lots of different places and bays where you can anchor. Greville Harbour is a magic place to go. You've got to come across a boulder bank to get into here, but these various arms are just completely landlocked and beautiful places to go and visit. And Catherine Cove up in here is a gorgeous place with a resort up here that you can go and visit as well. So great fishing, beautiful cruising around this part of the world. And that was when I was up there a few years ago with my friends on their boat Jive Talking in Port Hardy, and some big, beautiful big blue cod that you can catch there. And I just kind of jump into the boat and want to be thrown into your frying pan. Absolutely delicious. Navigating French Pass is a challenging stretch of water, and we talked to you a bit about this, and also Tory Channel as well. They're both quite extremely tidal areas with a really strong current that goes through there. You want to try and time your arrival with slack tide, and this was when these guys were going through there in the first year, and you can kind of see here, it's a great picture of it. The tide can reach up to 7 knots or 7 or 8 knots flowing through here, so you really want to kind of try and get it when it's not flowing that fast. It's basically sort of high tide on one side and low tide on the other, and the gradient difference is quite extreme and quite dangerous for yachts getting it wrong going through that area. So we'll make sure that you've got that completely under control. So you can sort of see it quite clearly here where the seabed is quite a different, challenging terrain underneath where you're going, and of course that can cause big eddies and other dramas going on underneath that can sort of feel like it's sucking you down a plug hole. So a tricky stretch of water. And this is the Catherine Cove Resort, and they've got a few moorings out here. And if everyone sort of arrives at about the same time, it's a great place to stop and have a bit of a shindig. They're really popular with a lot of the people that go fishing out of this area, and they have some good entertainment in this part of the world. And then Pelorus, Tennyson, Kenepuru, and Havelock, Queen Charlotte Sound. There is, I think I read somewhere, I don't want to say like 12 or 15% of New Zealand's coastline is contained in just this tiny little area. So there's numerous bays and inlets, and our rally guidebook gives you all of the tips on the places to go and explore along the way, where you can get groceries, where you can do walks, and other sort of resorts and stuff along the way. So as you can see, it's sort of like lots and lots of different bays, and you can quite easily get away in and tuck into any of these places and get away from any winds and things that are kind of coming through of any weather. There's interesting history and all sorts of remote places to visit. You can go and play golf in a really remote place in the middle of nowhere. This is an old boatyard that you can see here, sort of quite an interesting place to go and visit. Havelock Marina is in Pelorus Sound as well, which is quite a tidal entrance to get in. You have to follow quite a tricky channel to get in here, but it's a great place. You can come and get fuel and eat some mussels and try some Sauvignon Blanc from the area. But you also have to sort of navigate your way through Cook Strait, and we talked to you a bit about the challenges in Cook Strait and what you might anticipate in that particular area as well. Over in Marlborough Sounds, Ship Cove is one of our favourite spots to go and spend some time. So we've had lots of holidays in the Marlborough Sounds, and again, you can spend months up here and not cover, you know, the same place twice. But this was one of Captain Cook's favourite places to go and visit. I think he stayed there 5 times on his various adventures in New Zealand. This is Punga Cove or Punga Lodge in the Sounds. Gorgeous spot. Vagabond out there was one of our rally boats at that time. And then this is one of the other islands, Motuara Island, which is a bird reserve, and you can kind of climb up the top here. And this is Cook's Lookout at the top. So he was obviously charting the area and recording things. That it's a gorgeous bird sanctuary now. You can go and listen to some incredible native birds. Heaps of gorgeous anchorages, and you'll see here, this is probably a good example of where we've got stern lines attached to the shore. So the problem in the Sounds is that the anchorages are really, really deep. So you'll see here that we've all got our anchors kind of laid out at different angles, and we're rafted up. But we've also got various lines going ashore. So we'll talk to you about what sort of anchoring equipment and shore lines that you're going to need for the passage heading down to here, and just some tips and tricks on rafting up if you're using moorings, which is quite a common thing to do down there, and how to sort of I guess lay your anchor if you're going to be anchoring in a steep seabed area and using a shoreline to go ashore. This is literally very, very deep right up until you get to the shoreline. So we could be reversed right into this point here and still not be touching the bottom. So some tricks that we'll tell you about how to do that. This is a place called Governor's Bay, also in the Marlborough Sounds, another popular spot. So there are moorings in some of these places, and you can join the Waikawa Yacht Club or some of the other clubs up in that area. I think they've got over 100 moorings in the Sounds that you can basically pick up if you join as a special club member, and they do a special package for the rally for you to be able to do that. But otherwise, you can also drop the anchor, and you can see here, this was my boat. You might not be able to see it very clearly, but I've also got a line going ashore there just to stop us from swinging and unsettling our anchors. But these guys here and here are on the moorings. And that's another one of the moorings in the Sounds. And again, here you can see our shoreline going ashore. Yeah, so Waikawa Boating Club has over 100 moorings around the Sounds, and they do a special package for us going up there, and it's very social. It's great actually picking up a mooring and having other people raft up to you, because it's a great way to meet new friends and learn more about all the places that you're visiting and things along the way. So over the summertime, these places are obviously really busy. But as people go back to work, it's probably sort of from mid-January onwards, you're likely to have the whole place entirely to yourself. Heaps of wildlife up there as well, lots of friendly seals, and hopefully they won't come on the boat with you. But Waikawa and Picton are another popular spot to go and spend some time. And this is Waikawa Marina. They've got an extension out here as well now. This is the fuel dock, so you can pick up fuel here. The Waikawa Boating Club is up here. You can have a meal up there on the days that they're open. And yeah, just a great spot to kind of go and hang out. And up here is Picton, where the ferries come into, and you can get groceries and bits and pieces like that there as well. So it's just from the Waikawa Boating Club deck looking out. And they have a popular New Year's regatta. So if you like racing, you're welcome to join in their regatta too. In fact, I think that might be me right there. So gorgeous. You could spend the entire time in the Sounds and not go any further and have a wonderful time. So if the weather's looking terrible and you decide not to go down to Fiordland, all is not lost. You've also got the Sounds to retire and hang out in. But for those of you who are more adventurous and want to get further south than Fiordland, I highly recommend that you do get down here. It's about a 400-mile passage if you're starting from Tarakoe and going up and all the way down the top to Milford. So a good 2 to 3 day passage for most boats, and will help you work through the weather just to make sure that you're picking a good weather window to get down there, but it is entirely possible to do it. And once you're in Milford, again, you can basically day hop your way all the way down south. So it's about 100 nautical miles from the top of Fiordland to the bottom. There's 14 different fjords that you can visit along the way. The most popular ones are sort of Preservation, Dusky, Doubtful, and Milford. And in Doubtful and Milford, you're able to get crew in and out of there and also pick up groceries and collect fuel. So that's possible in those two areas. So we have had some boats spend about 6 weeks in Fiordland, which does require some quite creative provisioning to be down there for that long. But it's well worth doing if you really want to explore this area. Some of the things to watch out for, of course, are the sandflies, which are probably the main reason why Fiordland isn't more popular is because of the sandflies. And for those of you who don't know what sandflies are, if you're an international person, they're like a mosquito, sort of a smaller butcher mosquito, and they can make your life a bit of a misery if they like you, which they definitely like me. So you could potentially take me with you and just hang out next to me, and they'll eat me alive and probably leave you alone. So that's another strategy if you want to avoid getting bitten by sandflies. The other thing is GPS and comms can be tricky down there because the sides of the fjords are so steep and so narrow. It can be difficult to access the satellites for GPS and comms because they need to be sort of directly above you to be able to pick up your GPS signal. So it does require you to be quite careful, I guess, with your navigation and also with your communications. But it's well worth the effort. As you can see, this was a stunning day in Milford Sound, I think it was. This was taken by Tony Whiting, this particular photograph, which I absolutely love. And it kind of really sums up what a beautiful day can look like in Fiordland. And of course, that sort of iconic Mitre Peak, and you've probably seen this on postcards for years and years and years. It's absolutely spectacular, and it's almost, the scale of it is difficult to describe, and you really can't kind of get the scale of it until you're there and you're able to see a tiny little boat sort of up alongside some of these incredibly steep and high mountains. And you might have seen the Sailing Parley revival clip where they drove the boat into the waterfall, and the girls were able to sort of stand underneath the freezing cold water that was coming off of the waterfall. Like the sides of the mountains are just sheer drops of rock that come down with waterfalls and just go directly down into the ocean for hundreds and hundreds of meters. So you can literally drive your boat up underneath a waterfall and wash it if you want to. So or have a swim or a fresh shower like these brave girls did, which was really cool. It's a stunning, stunning remote place, and you'll meet some pretty incredible people down there as well. And I think that's one of the beauties of going to Fiordland is that the fishermen and the people that recognize that you've really made the effort to get down there, they all want to meet you and hear your story. It's a wild and crazy place down there, but it's spectacularly beautiful. And I've had some fantastic input from people helping me write the guidebook, including this particular picture here is my friend Rodney, and it's one of his boats. He ran charters down in Fiordland for ages on his boat, Strannock. So he helped me write a lot of the content and some of the special places that he used to take his charter guests to as his secret places are in the guidebook, which is amazing. Some of the locals aren't so friendly though, and this particular sea lion was gave everyone a bit of a fright in the dinghy. It was a great photograph though, but beautiful wildlife that you'll experience down there, and you'll have a lot of these places to yourself, which is also just as well because a lot of the anchorages are quite small. And so we don't really want, a group of 30 rally boats traveling together from place to place to place because you'll struggle to kind of find anchorages in these little places. But for 2 or 3 boats or 3 or 4 boats at a time, you can usually find a nice spot that you can all anchor up and have your little slice of paradise there all to yourself. And of course, as I mentioned, the fishermen down there are amazing and very welcoming to our visiting yachties, interested in what you're doing, and you can often backfill some of their helicopter trips. So these helicopters are coming in to drop off, pick up the crayfish that they've been catching and their fish catch along the way. So the crayfish are all transported live out of the boats. So often if you've got crew that you want to get into these really, really remote places, your crew can kind of come in with these helicopters and then they'll jump off and they'll pick up the crayfish and fly back out again. So you can kind of backfill their trip, which makes it a little bit more economical to do. So we give you a few tips on how to arrange that if you've got people coming and going. Of course, the real beautiful beauty comes when it rains down there, and obviously it rains a lot, so you need to have good wet weather gear whilst you're there. But the waterfalls and everything kind of really comes alive when it's been raining. It's stunning. But you do have to have your wits about you, and it can be challenging navigation, and obviously sort of keeping an eye on the weather is one of the key things for down there. So we just want to make sure that you're safe and you've found a good spot to shelter if there's any bad weather coming through. But often you won't have bad weather. You'll have some amazing weather as well. And as you can see from these photos, these people have had some pretty magic times down there as well. Just gorgeous. One of the cool things that we've got in the guidebook is the special secret kayak, which is on a lake up a hill and up a mountain, basically. Well, maybe not a mountain, halfway up a mountain. And you have to hike up the hill and look under a bush to find the secret kayak. And the people that were there last year said that the kayak did have a bit of a hole in it. So I'm not sure whether this seam here is opened up or not. But if you're going down there and you want to take the kayak for a paddle across the beautiful lake, you might want to take some fiberglass repair stuff with you to fix the kayak before you go to kayaking across. So we're not sure who put the kayak there, but it's been there probably for at least 10 years now, and it's pretty cool being able to hike up a mountain or halfway up a mountain to a lake and then paddle across it from a kayak that you can find under a strategically placed bush, which will tell you where it is. Just gorgeous. So highly recommend you go and visit Fiordland. And if you're into fishing and crayfish and that kind of stuff, you won't be disappointed. Make sure you take a big pot, because the cray fishermen will also give you some crayfish if you're unable to catch any yourself. And so take your big pot for your crayfish, and they also like baking and things like that in exchange. So if you like to bake some bread or a cake or something to swap, then you won't ever be short of crayfish or fish down there if you make friends with the fishermen. So a pretty magic part of the world, and a place that I highly recommend that you get down to. These nets that Martin is kindly modeling here are highly recommended as well. You can also see here we've got some sandfly protection clothing put on there. So make sure that you cover yourself up to avoid the sandflies, and having things like mosquito nets on your hatches, insect repellent and bite cream and that kind of stuff can just sort of help keep the little buggers at bay. So from there, you get down to Peninsula Point, which is one of the most sort of challenging stretches of water, and that's one of the places you've got to navigate to get further south. One of the amazing people you will meet on the radio as you go down there is Mere, she is Bluff Fisherman's Radio, and she was recently featured on those Good Sorts things on the news or whatever it was, the Sunday program. And she does trip reports, weather updates, sort of keeps track of everyone that's out there on the water. She's a free service, so you can donate to her cause, and a lovely person, and a really useful resource to kind of get to know whilst you're down there. And this is one of the most sort of challenging stretches of water to navigate is Preservation Inlet to Stewart Island and Peninsula Point. You might have heard it on the maritime weather forecast that's been broadcast, where the seas can be pretty high down there in Foveaux Strait. So it's about 100 nautical miles. So we recommend you do it as a bit of an overnight trip if you can. Leave sort of in the afternoon and arrive early morning into Stewart Island to kind of get there, or vice versa. So there's a bit of current going through Foveaux Strait as well, and we'll tell you about how to navigate that. The main parts of Stewart Island that a lot of people like to visit are Port Pegasus. So if you've got plenty of provisions, you can kind of come directly down into this part here, Port Pegasus, which is super remote. Nobody down here other than cruisers or hunters or people with boats. Or up here in Oban, this is the only part of Stewart Island that is inhabited, and it's got about 15 kilometers of roads, which is literally just around this particular area here. So it's a massive area with only people concentrated around this particular spot. But Port Pegasus, Lords River, Port Adventure, and Patterson Inlet are incredible cruising destinations. And we've got an online digital kind of cruising guide which was written by a man called Alistair Walker, who's based down in Dunedin. And he's made this freely available for rally participants, so you can download this to use to learn about all the places that he loves in Stewart Island. It's a fantastic resource. And we also have moorings down there with one of our contacts, and we can put you in touch with him, and he will guide you to which mooring to pick up. There's no cost to hire one of the moorings, but they just ask that you give a donation to the local Stewart Island school. So last year, I think we were able to raise about $1,600 for the Stewart Island school with people using their moorings down there, which is pretty cool. So this is the main town of Oban here. So the moorings are on here. The ferry comes in along here, and this is inside Patterson Inlet here. So there's more moorings and things around the corner, but the pub's just up around here and the shops here. It's a very sort of small area, and as you can see, just only a couple of kilometers of roads. So it's a good spot to buy food and fuel. Like if you're going in the opposite direction, if you decided to go from Stewart Island or down the east coast and up to Fiordland, this will be where you get your last opportunity to buy food and fuel before you get to Doubtful or Milford. It's not much phone coverage down in Stewart Island, although in Oban there is phone coverage, but further south there's not. The pub has an incredible quiz night, so you must make sure that you get to that. And of course the moorings and things as well. You might have seen the Parlay trip to Stewart Island as well. They had a great sort of visit with some of the great white sharks down there, which is kind of interesting. So have a look at their trip there. They do actually do diving with great white sharks down in Stewart Island, which some people are for and some people are against. You can have your own opinion, but it's interesting to see these incredible creatures down there, that's for sure. But Stewart Island is stunning, and one of the main reasons you can go there is you can actually see kiwis in the wild, just kind of cruising around. Even during the daytime, the Stewart Island kiwis are quite different and very kind of interesting kiwis to go and visit. You can do a trip to go and see them, or get a permit to go out to one of the beaches to see the kiwis, which is cool. And they also have lots of history down in Stewart Island as well, including this is a Norwegian whaling base, which is an interesting spot to go and visit. Excuse me. So highly recommend Stewart Island. It's absolutely incredibly beautiful and probably not what you expect. You know, these golden sandy beaches that stretch for miles, crystal clear water, but obviously a little bit kind of colder than you would find in the tropics. Lots of wildlife as well, great fishing and that kind of stuff too. So as you can see, stunning beaches, but also you do have to be quite switched on with your navigation down there. There are quite a few little isolated hazards to kind of watch out for. And again, the weather, as you can see in the layout of these trees, it gets pretty windy down there, but gorgeous, gorgeous place. So highly recommend Stewart Island, and a gorgeous, gorgeous place to go. Lord's River is those particular pictures there. The weather, though, is challenging, and we'll keep a close eye on that, and close eye on you, and just make sure you know what's coming your way. And yeah, that's Port Pegasus, and one of the walks that you can do up to the Gog and Magog, looking back down to the islands. So some good wet weather gear is also recommended for this part of the world for sure. And that's Rodney's boat, Stranick, who I mentioned before, that does the charters down there. So from here, from Stewart Island, it's about 320 miles if you wanted to go all the way up to Akaroa, about 130 miles up to Dunedin, so sort of a day trip to get up there, or a 24-hour trip to get up there. And then you can kind of hop Dunedin, Oamaru, Timaru, Akaroa, or you can go Dunedin all the way to Banks Peninsula, entirely up to you, or up into Littleton. But Dunedin's a great place to stop, whether it's just to have a look around, or whether it's just to shelter from weather. And beautiful yacht club in there, and some great anchorages, and of course the albatross colony there, which is a real highlight. But it's a gorgeous harbour to go and experience. And this is Oamaru Harbour as well, so you can actually access into here. They've got moorings you can pick up, where you can drop the anchor, and a really interesting place to go and visit, with a really cool architecture and a fun sort of steampunk atmosphere and culture down there, which is quite quirky and unique. So that's a pretty cool place. Timaru Harbour again is a place that you are able to stop, and they've got like a place where you can stern to into their breakwall water there, wall there, shops and bits and pieces. And of course then Banks Peninsula is sort of the next highlight on the calendar. So Akaroa Harbour, gorgeous place to go and visit, and all the way around here into Little Akaloa, Pigeon Bay, Port Levy, and Littleton Harbour. So there's some great cruising around Banks Peninsula. It's about 40 nautical miles from Akaroa into Littleton Harbour, so a good day trip to get all the way around there. So this is Akaroa town over here, and up in here in this particular area is a nice anchorage called French Farm, and that's all the way out to the heads out there, and you can go swimming with the beautiful Hector's dolphins. These are the lovely cute dolphins that disrupted the Sail GP this year, and they're a popular thing to go swimming with. And there's some really quirky stuff in Akaroa, really nice kind of French heritage, and mosaic gardens, a really friendly yacht club. We've got a really good relationship with them, so we can hook you up with the mooring when you get there too. Beautiful wildlife there with their blue penguins. And also in Pigeon Bay, you're welcome to join them for their party that they have each year in early March, where all the yachties race around from Littleton Harbour, and they put on a really good shindig for us in the yacht club there. It's quite a different scenery in Banks Peninsula, you know, quite dry, barren hills, but beautiful clear water, and lovely little bays and anchorages to go and visit. And we'll arrange for the dolphins to come out and meet you at the heads. That's all part of the service. So they'll come out and meet you and escort you into Littleton Harbour. And there's some gorgeous places here. You can anchor over here in Pura Bay, Diamond Harbour, or in here in the marina inside Littleton Harbour here. And of course up and down here is where we sort of do our yacht racing in this particular area, and yacht clubs around the corner. So it's a gorgeous harbour, great sailing. And of course, the gateway to Christchurch, you can hop on a bus and come into town and have a look around. Christchurch, if you haven't been here since the rebuild, it's a beautiful city to come and explore. Lots of interesting things to come and see. Then it's Banks Peninsula up to Waikawa. And again, you've got to navigate through Cook Strait, about 180 nautical miles. So it should take you just over a day to get there and possibly stop off in Kaikoura along the way, which is, of course, interesting for the whales and things that you've got there and crayfishing and things like that. And then through Tory Channel, which is another kind of challenging tidal current area with ferries to also navigate your way through. It can be a busy sort of stretch of water with shipping coming and going, but the scenery is absolutely stunning and a gorgeous kind of stop where you come in here into Cook Strait. Or you can head straight up to Wellington or carry on directly to Napier if you wish. So, of course, Wellington's a great place to go and visit, the capital city of New Zealand. Go and catch up with the Prime Minister at the Beehive, visit Te Papa. And they've got up here further, you can head into Napier and see all the Art Deco architecture and things that they've got in Napier, which is fantastic. Of course, wonderful wineries and things like that up there, or into Gisborne as well, where they've also got a marina. And then you're nearly home back to the North Island if that's where you've started. And so to do this adventure, you'll definitely need to have a sense of adventure and a sense of humor and some patience to wait for those good weather windows to go. But I highly recommend that you prepare your vessel to a Cat 2 level, and we'll help you through the process of getting to that area. There is no safety inspection, though. It's entirely up to you as the skipper to decide how you prepare your vessel to go south, but we highly recommend Cat 2 is a good thing to aim for. We recommend you have a heavy anchor and at least 100 meters of chain, and be confident anchoring in some challenging conditions as well as shorelines, and we'll give you our tips on those. Some decent wet weather gear and mosquito nets for those sandflies, particularly if you're heading further south. A clean hull, which is a requirement for many of the places you're visiting in the South Island, and we'll give you updates on the requirements for that. And you'll need satellite comms or the ability to get email if you're heading to Fiordland and Stewart Island. And of course, the patience and plenty of time to wait for that weather window so that you're not putting yourself under time pressure to get from one place to the next. It can be challenging conditions down there, but if you're prepared to go for it, it's absolutely worth it. And hopefully you won't experiencing anything like this. This is actually a little young 88 friends picture from down Stewart Island way. So it is challenging, but it is well worth it. So registrations are open now, and I'll send you a link to the registration form and as well as a recording of this presentation. And I recommend that you register early because we do have quite a bit of content that we put out sort of in the lead up to help you get prepared, including that vessel manual just to help you check off some of the things that you should be getting organised on your boat. And if for any reason you're unable to attend this year, if you get delayed or some other drama or something kind of crops up, we're always happy to transfer any payments that you've made over to a future rally. So you could go use that to go up to the Pacific next year or do the South Island rally the following season. So even if you're worried that you're not sure if you're going to be able to make it or not, it's still worthwhile registering early. You're not going to lose your money. It can be transferred. So other rallies coming up next year, obviously we'll be heading up to the Pacific as well again, and it's a great sort of opportunity for a shakedown cruise to head down to the South Island, just give your boat a really good workout before you go offshore, so that's always an option as well. So that's it for my presentation. I'll head down to the questions now and see what questions we've got in the chat box. So if you've got any other questions, feel free to take yourself off mute, turn your camera on and chat to me, but I'll just go through what's in the chat box here. One person has had to disappear. Looking forward to seeing you later. Thank you. Someone said, would love to be on the yellow track. Yes, they went everywhere on the yellow track. They went, spent about 6 weeks in Fiordland looking in every little nook and cranny. So that was a really good one. So, so thanks, Tim, who was had to disappear as well. So no problem at all. We can catch up with you another time if you've got any questions, Tim, as well. But Has anyone else got any questions they'd like to sort of ask? So please feel free to chime in now. Have you had any reports on how Starlink works in Fiordland if GPS can be spotty? Yes, so we did have boats with Starlink last year, and I think even possibly the year before, using it in Fiordland. So it does definitely work down there. Absolutely, it works. It's just can be patchy at times if you're in, particularly tucked in under some of those high cliffs. So you need to have sort of obviously visible, your unit has to be visible to the satellites to be able to get your GPS position and your comms to and from the satellite. So it's just being aware of that. It does still work, but it might not work all the time. So just kind of being, not necessarily trusting that your GPS has you in the right position is probably my advice there. Any other questions? No? Okay, well, that's cool. I'm happy to take questions individually if you want to email me or send me a message or anything like that. As I say, I'll flick you a link shortly with a recording, the link to the recording of this, and answer any other questions directly. Jeff's just asked SSB in Fiordland. Yes, HF and SSB radio works perfectly well in Fiordland, and you can do a sked through to Peter Mott Passage Guardian as well for that, or to Maritime Radio as well, to get your weather updates and things like that. So it works perfectly down there. Any other questions? No, I think that's about it. Cool. Well, I will sign off. I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for joining me this evening, and hopefully look forward to seeing you guys all on the South Island this summer. It'll be a fun adventure. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
See you
Becky.
later. See ya. Cheers, John. Bye.
Thank you.